Welcome back, everyone, to our Live Well classroom series. In today's session, we will kind of pick up on where we left off last week in just how to create a well classroom, how to incorporate wellness in your curriculum and keep your students healthy. So before we get started, I'll just go over a couple housekeeping items. If you need closed captioning or subtitles throughout the presentation, please use the CC button in your Zoom menu below. You can use that and the subtitles will be there for you. If you have a question throughout the session, please use the Q&A feature in your Zoom menu below. And if anyone has a question similar to yours, use the little thumbs up button to push the most popular questions up to the top, and we'll do our best to answer everything at the end of the session. And if you have any issues, please use the chat feature to reach out to the panelists. Other than that, we will be recording the session and posting it on our website, which we will put in the chat if you want to go back and reference it later along with the slides. And so with that, I will pass it over to Kate and Alice, and we'll get started. Thanks, everyone, for joining.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Welcome, and we're happy to see you again today. So this is going to be a continuation of what we discussed last week as far as creating a Live Well classroom. So a classroom that's really helping your students to hopefully feel very supported and achieve some higher levels of wellness as far as the 9 dimensions of wellness go. So I am Kate Gawlik, and Dr. Alice Teall is my partner on this, and we will go ahead and get started. So just as a recap, so our Live Well classrooms are classrooms really that encompass, this supportive, inclusive environment and provide students the opportunity to practice wellness and integrate wellness into the courses and curricula that's currently part of the university. So when you start to do this, there's just some couple things to keep in mind is that this is not going to look the same with all the different environments and learning platforms that we currently have. So you really need to think about this when it comes to what the program is, what the course is, and whether this course is online, in person, asynchronous, synchronous. There's so many different learning modalities that we have now that you really need to think about those things as you go forward with creating these opportunities. And then also for those of you that have clinical components, that's a whole different setting to really think about those things. So I'm going to give you 2 examples of a strategy that I've used within my classes. So this is an example of how I've integrated wellness using extra credit. So this is a completely optional opportunity for students. And for every week, so for the 14 weeks, they receive 0.2 points for completing the wellness assignment. And what we do at the beginning is we have them identify a wellness goal for themselves for that semester. And they have to put the wellness goal into a Dropbox. And then what they do is every week, we have Dropboxes also that have a brief wellness activity, and they have to complete those each week. And what we do is we ask them every week, we say you have to submit 2 things. You have to do just a quick, this is what I did for the weekly wellness activity that you did. So this, varies every week. We make it very fun and exciting, and I'll go into what those look like each week. So this at least gives them a little bit of accountability that they clicked on the activity. Of course, we want them to complete it. We can't guarantee them, or we can't guarantee that they complete it, but at least we have some accountability that they did it. So we say, okay, you have to submit, I went on a walk this week, or whatever the wellness activity is. And then we also ask them to report how they're doing on their wellness goal. And I make a point of telling them at the beginning of the course that, we don't care how you're doing. We just want you to kind of continually look at it each week. So it's a chance to refocus on your goal. So they can write, I didn't complete anything for my wellness goal this week. They're still going to receive that credit. It's just a way, again, to get them refocused and looking at that goal again. We also use a method where we try to incorporate friends and family members. So not only, are we looking at our students' health, but we're kind of looking at population health as far as including that family in some of these activities. And the content for the weekly wellness activities, we try to vary it. So it can be try a healthy recipe this week, a healthy new recipe. It can be some kind of like dance video, or like I said, it was National Walking Week in April. And so that week they had to, take a walk with a loved one. There's various dance videos we'll put on and things like that. Some of them are mental health related. So guided imagery activities, positive self-affirmations, meditation, so those types of activities, but really kind of trying to include these 9 dimensions of wellness too. And so when we looked at the outcomes of this in 2 different courses, this is, you can see the blue is who achieved their wellness goal. The orange is who did not achieve it, and the gray is who were close to achieving it. So you can see the majority of them actually really did complete their wellness goal for the semester, which is, really, really great when we look at something that's an optional extra credit activity for them. So the other thing we looked at is participation. These rates were typically very high. 4% didn't participate in any for the first course, and the second course, 7% didn't participate in any. So these are still pretty high, as far as engagement. 95% when asked if they wanted to continue these types of activities said they did, and 51% interestingly said that they would still participate even if the extra credit was not offered. So that in itself, I think, speaks very highly of, it's something they enjoyed to do. Another study we actually did this same model, but we put a controlled group. So we looked at this both at the grad and undergrad level, and our control group did same kind of focused activities, that we made those activities on implicit bias instead of wellness. And they still had the same model as far as they got the extra credit points. It was optional participation. So everything was the same. And what we noticed is that our students that participated in the wellness activities actually had reduced stress and anxiety, and they tend to go down with that. And the other group, the control group, actually went up in their stress and anxiety. The other thing we looked at was their healthy lifestyle beliefs, and there's a valid and reliable tool that you can use to look at this. And we actually found that it increased those healthy lifestyle belief scores in the group that participated in the wellness activities. So that, I just kind of explained this, but, so decreasing anxiety in the wellness activities, increasing in the control group, and same with stress, and then those increased in the healthy lifestyle beliefs. So just to give you a couple examples, the other thing that you can incorporate into lectures, I know last time I went through lecture size and what that looked like, but even for these asynchronous lectures, I'll do a lot of a very different variety of things, just to get people up and moving during the lectures. So this was like the 10 for 10 lecture that I did. So every 10 slides, I would then ask them to do a rep of some kind of exercise. So that would be one example. And so just a variety of strength training things that we put in there. I call these the beautiful view lectures. So I ask them, invite them. I never make this something that I require. I just invite them to do it. But to stand up and walk or move throughout the lecture. And on each slide, I try to put some kind of nice scenery. So you can see like in this one, and I call it the beautiful view lecture. So they can walk and kind of look at these pictures of nice scenery, and we can pretend that we're there. I also do another one that I put a tennis shoe at the beginning slide of the lecture, and I say, okay, every time you see this tennis shoe, I want you to get up and stand or move throughout the duration of this slide. Another thing that Alice and I had implemented this year were the Wellness Olympics. And we did this both at the undergrad and grad level. And the courses that we used had clinical groups. So we actually had these groups compete against each other. And what they had to do is track 4 different wellness activities. And those were minutes of sleep, minutes of exercise, their intake of fruit and vegetables, and then their minutes of stress reduction. And then we ended up putting in some money, and the winners actually got gift cards. So again, they did this the duration of the semester, and we had really great participation and engagement in that as well. This is also available for everybody. So this is the Faculty Wellness Toolkit, and you can see on the side there's different activities that you can use and embed and put into your courses. And this is can be found at www.u.osu.edu/faculty wellness toolkit. So that is available for your use. And now I am going to pass it over to Alice to talk to you guys a little bit more about some strategies.
Thanks, Kate. I appreciate that. I think as I start my section, what I want to say is sometimes the unasked question, or maybe even the elephant in the room type question, is, but how can we do one more thing? How can we add one more thing? And I know for many of us who teach in the advanced practice nursing courses, and I'm sure this is true for you wherever you are teaching across the university, is, we've got competencies and criteria and essentials to meet. And, then you listen to this webinar in May and you think, how am I going to add this one more thing? And we recognize that. And what we would suggest is that this is really foundational to being able to do everything else, that certainly students learn better when they're actively engaged. Those breaks in the lecture that Kate just talked about are not just nice things. They actually increase learning, and they increase people's ability to engage with the content and remember it. So next slide, Kate. We use what we started calling a 4C model for integrating wellness programming across curricula. And by 4Cs, we look at, especially in nursing, because so many of our courses have clinical components or clinical skills. So we look at what is in the classroom and clinical. And then we do that in the context of culture and community. Of course, this year we had to add a 5th C, which was COVID. But the truth is, usually, and unfortunately, there's often an additional crisis. I mean, we hope not as large as a pandemic, but at the same time, we recognize that one of the things when we're thinking about this being foundational and incorporating strategies into our courses and programs, think of it as sort of an onboarding, right? As we've got students who are already immersed in this. So maybe those partnerships can make this easier for students who are coming in to be included. So in this next part, I'm going to talk about the C's, and starting with culture. And you'll remember Byrne in her very first webinar to start this series talked about the importance of culture. So when we're looking at specific strategies to support a wellness culture, we're looking at what inspires engagement. We want to support and cultivate diversity of thought. We want to support collaboration, respond to feedback, and celebrate small steps. And what I would say about that is, this is something we do as faculty, as effective teachers anyway. So what I would suggest to you is anytime that you are working to encourage students to engage in a class, whether that's online or on campus, that's actually part of building a wellness culture. If you are working in a college where maybe you haven't done this, or you haven't done it across curriculum, or maybe haven't done it in your program, a couple of examples of things that make a big difference that I would suggest would be wellness work groups. Find like-minded faculty, staff, students who are interested in incorporating some of this, because certainly team collaboration can make this a lot more fun. Just be careful, because you collaborate with Kate Gawlik, you'll be doing Wellness Olympics. But some of the other examples of things that you might think are small but are actually very powerful are to think about language reframing. So, for example, instead of saying, "Oh, we have to do this," or telling students what they have to do, you use the language of "you get to." And I know, I don't want to make it seem small that we're in a pandemic, but at the same time, we're at the part now in this pandemic where we can, and this would be the reframing. This time of uncertainty is difficult, but what are the opportunities that we now see? What are we learning, right? So it's about authentically engaging in a truth, and at the same time doing it in a way that it can be reframed and seen differently. One other example of what we do with this are open forums. Open forums can be done during class, related to maybe a difficult topic, allowing students to engage. We'll have an open forum about mental health issues and just ask students to share thoughts. We've also had open forums across programs where we've, for example, last year as students were getting ready to graduate, we had an open forum to discuss imposter syndrome, asking the question, so who's kind of thinking they don't know what they need to know, right? And just allowing people to express that and to get support and to find out they're not alone makes such a difference. That also, it changes the culture, but it also creates a sense of community. So the student faculty wellness forums and the student wellness forums really can help with this. And again, it can be between courses and programs, but also within. So Kate gave an example today of a wellness team in terms of the Wellness Olympics. And I talked last week a little bit about wellness partnerships, but in any course, you can have students independently doing extra credit if they would like and reflecting on that. You can also pair students to have them have an accountability partner. And I've done wellness partnerships in student pairs where they've chosen the partner. Most often I've done it where the partner has been assigned. That's probably by nature of the courses I've taught, because a lot of the students in those courses didn't know each other. And I've gotten really good feedback from that. Okay, so we looked at culture and community. Those are the first two C's. Now I'm going to talk about the clinical and the coursework. Byrne talked in the first webinar and gave some information about MindStrong and Health Athlete and how we onboard our students. In doing that, I guess what I want you to think about is when students participate in things for their own wellness, they're also learning skills to support others with wellness. And so what I had talked about with the Telehealth Wellness Hub and partnerships and coaching, that improves the student wellness. They find that they don't want to be the imposters, that they're engaging in their own wellness, and it really helps them be more effective in engaging with others. The thing that I want to add to the conversation today when we're thinking about this framework is that if you are teaching a class that doesn't have traditional clinical, that might not either be something that's in the course you're teaching or in the program, I want you to think about how you teach as a mentorship role in encouraging students to be well. In other words, the other type of clinical tools that students will use as they're in programs as a student and as a graduate are things that help them understand their own level of wellness and interact with others, no matter the profession. So things like learning therapeutic communication, learning how to communicate professionally, learning how to have conversations and interview and discuss with others information about wellness and goal setting are all parts of being a professional. So I see this, how we teach in creating partnerships and in encouraging students to reflect really will impact students with their ability to reflect and their ability to pass that on. In terms of classroom specifically, Kate talked about some of the things today regarding lecture size and what you can do in a lecture and what you can do in a class. I love the picture of this little girl in the middle. I want everybody in my class to feel this way, right? Yes, I get to be here. This is fabulous. Not everybody is always going to feel that way, and that's okay too. A couple things that I would suggest in terms of wellness strategies within a classroom setting. The first thing I would suggest is really what I call judicious use of webcams. I don't know that we know yet what is the right amount of requirement to have a webcam on, especially if you're in a class that's maybe 2 or 3 hours long, right? But I do know this, what we have found in our courses are that we can use webcams to have students, what you're seeing on the far left of your slide are students actually demonstrating assessment techniques. And so when we require students to have on their webcam, it's really important that we actually use that there's actually a reason that they have it on, that they're connecting with each other, that they're engaging in class. In this example, that they're demonstrating wellness activities. If we're going to do a lecture, a lot of times online, we'll just tell them they can go ahead and turn their cameras off and they can stand up. They can, actually engage in some physical activity while they're listening. I've had online classes where I've had them turn their camera on at the beginning, do some engagement and active learning exercise, have them have their camera off for a while, and then put their camera on again at the end. One time we had pet night at the end. So anyone who had a pet brought their pet to the webcam. It's just a way to create community within the classroom. I would also encourage you, on the far right of that slide is a list of some online learning tips. I put this on here purposefully because the online.osu.edu website has some great strategies for student success when learning online, and those incorporate wellness and engagement as well. One of the reasons that we have individuals reflect is that sometimes we learn things in those reflections that we wouldn't have learned otherwise. Sometimes students present, in class as if everything is okay. And we have more than one example of students sharing something similar to what's written on the slide. Had a student share that, really they were feeling nauseous from anxiety, that they had lost weight, they had reverted to bad habits by shutting down, losing motivation, losing momentum, and just feeling drained. The student shared that they just didn't quite know how to regain energy, motivation, and momentum, and they were backsliding on goals. When we read this and then we can reach out and we can support that student in their wellness, we recognize that without reflection on wellness in the class, we wouldn't necessarily had known with this particular student example that there was a struggle. So this is the reason, of course, that we added the 5th C and added in crisis. With the truth is, with the uncertainty that students have felt, with the expectations sometimes that they put on themselves, right, for course and clinical work, this approach to live well has really resonated with our students. For us, this is really important because our graduates are going to be providing care to others. And we know if clinicians aren't well, they're more likely to have medical errors. We also know that when our students aren't well, they don't learn as well. We've added this this daily check-in, or at least minimally weekly check-in, to say, are you okay today? Because we also know that, that uncertainty can create a bit of crisis. So we're really hopeful that you've taken some tips from this, or that you've, at least this has given you some pause for thought about how you could incorporate wellness strategies in your course or in your program. The need is certainly imperative for student-centered academic strategies to prepare them to enter the profession, to be able to manage stress and build resilience. I really like the saying on the slide, right? A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships are built for. The truth is, Kate and I have had experiences where students have often thought if we challenged them that we were, not thinking of their wellness. And I just want to end, our part of these webinars by saying this isn't about doing the soft thing. And this isn't about not challenging our students or not preparing them, but it's really about preparing them and working with them, to partner with them to develop resilience. And yes, we need to identify students along the way who may be struggling, but we're really looking with this to focus on their strengths and to help them with building the skills that they need to be ready not only for the challenges we're giving them, but for the challenges that they'll face after graduation. So thank you so much for your attention to this. And we have just a few minutes to maybe entertain questions if you all have any. Oh, thank you, Katie. I see that Rebecca posted the link to the Faculty Wellness Toolkit. So please feel free to use that.
And I saw that Linda Connor raised her hand. Linda, do you have a question? I can hit the allow to talk.
I see it now. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, it's Linda. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Hi, Linda.
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry. I couldn't get into my calendar to open it up to click the link to join. So I only caught the tail end of this. And I would like to review the actual presentation when it's available.
Of course,
Sure.
we're recording it, so you should be all set. We'll send that link out to everybody.
Yeah, and my last semester, it was a synchronous course. So each time we met, I asked the students to rate their stress level. And for students that were, really high, I would actually reach out to them in an email and ask how they were doing and if they wanted to meet with me. And I would meet with them, and that really, really helped them, and they really appreciated it. So
Yeah, that's wonderful.
yeah.
I think really, Linda, it goes back to connection, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we all need to know that we're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes that's exactly what is needed.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when you're looking to support wellness. There's only so many things we can ask the students to do as far as, their personal wellness, but actually making that connection and, like you guys were just saying, letting them know that they're, not alone in this. I think that in itself speaks volumes to, what we can do, as their faculty.
Yeah, and another thing too, the course that I was teaching, they built in like every week there's like this extra credit health and wellness activity to participate in. And they don't have to, but I kept on top of that to really get a deeper understanding of how the students were doing, like what was their mental state of mind. And it's amazing the amount of information that the students were sharing with me, and letting me know that they've been diagnosed with depression and anxiety, and they've been started on new medications, and and I would follow up with them and let them know that I'm here if they need to reach out to me, and there are other resources available at OSU. So that was one way to kind of keep an eye on the students throughout the semester.
Yeah, it really does provide a window into what is going on in their lives that we normally would never have access to.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Thank you for sharing. All right. Does anyone else have anything? All right. Well, thank you so much. We hope to see you back next week. We have somebody actually coming from Student Life, so it should be a great presentation. So thank you, everybody. Have a great day.